ChatGPT is the same right now for creators. Maybe for other professions is better. The output I see from it, I don't think it's more complementary than a substitute. Welcome to a new episode of The Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory. Today with me, Jon Youshaei. He's a content creator that worked at YouTube for 5 years, then at Instagram for other 3 years, and now he grew his own social to 180 million views in the past year. Before we get started, I also wanted to just invite you to support the podcast, leaving a review and subscribing on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey, Jon, what's up? Welcome to the show. Thank you, man. We got the East Coast, West Coast thing going. You're in New York, I'm in LA. I love it. We do all the time, trying to connect with people, now in the States. Sometimes we also connect with people out of Europe. Being Italian myself, I love to have, being connected with different people because you can always learn so many things from different cultures. Either where just you're located, it makes such a difference in terms of what you can share, That you being Italian, I should have a cup of wine right now. I should have some good food. You guys, I was saying before, you guys know how to live. So next time in person. Absolutely. I was thinking to do maybe some sort of news section for the podcast where we might have in maybe limoncello together or something like that. And that would be maybe not too many because you could see then, how the episode would change. Yeah. It just slowly gets worse. Yes. Exactly. But Jon, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited about this episode because, and then please, tell us a bit more about yourself, but you're really active. I've seen you posting all the single time. And what I love it is that you go really in detail about what is happening in the industry with case studies and metrics and numbers, and really analyzing from both sides, brands and creators. But just for the people that might not know you, who are you? How did you start? Tell us more about your career. Yeah, I used to work at YouTube for 5 years where I was head of creator product marketing. And then I worked at Instagram for 3 years where I helped build a creator product marketing team. And then in the past year or so, I've gone on my own to become a creator, but then also work with brands and platforms like Origin Protocol as a creator in residence, work with TubeBuddy as their head creator advisor, and get a chance to just put out my own content. And it's been crazy. We've grown to about 500,000 followers across socials and then 180 million views. So a lot of things that I've learned from the inside that I'm now applying on the outside. And it's just been a surreal experience this past year. First of all, congratulations on that. And what is just if it comes to your mind, the big difference between working from the inside and then becoming a content creator? Because there are different things, right? You might see things from different angles. What is the first thing maybe that you realized getting more in the creation mode, let's say, that you didn't know before? Yeah, I think there's more similarities than people think. And I think there's this business side and professionalism to being a creator that I really enjoyed because to me, I'm like, okay, I've understood how brands and platforms want to work with creators. And so I think that's one reason why we've been able to strike up partnerships and brand deals even while we were growing and smaller, because I'll obsess as much about our videos and the interviews that I do and the content that we put out as I will a deck that we're going to send to a brand and work with them. And so I think those are things that I definitely learned on the inside of Instagram and YouTube and from the managers and leaders that I had a chance to work with. And now I see that helping out big time. And talking about that, right? So you already said about sending deck to brands, right? And understanding more how deals works. Let's talk for a second about monetization. It has been shifting a lot in the past years. Before it was something that you didn't even want to say I'm getting paid for things, because it was YouTubers were this thing that was tier number 5, from the list, right? If you were a YouTuber, it was what's wrong with you, right? And then finally people started understanding that actually it was a job, right? You were able to make money out of it. It was something be more stable. And now we have so many more ways, right, for content creators to monetize on their side, or also with the help of platforms, right? So how would you monetize from the early moments already as a content creator? Have you identified any, I don't want to say a formula, but maybe a framework or any tips and tricks for others listening? Yeah, I actually had an interview with a wonderful creator named Dear Aline, where I had this interview maybe
a year ago, and I'm working on putting it out as we kind of like get our content team like up and running and get it like a schedule together. But essentially, like she gave me a great framework to think about. As a creator, you actually have a lot of skills as you grow your audience that you could then turn to brands and work as an agency or work as like an individual. So I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, if you're getting good at video, you're probably good at a lot of other things. You're good at maybe voiceovers. You're good at product photography. You're good at, putting together like testimonial videos, all these things that maybe don't sound the most exciting to start. But if you're able to do that, then you could build a business that makes cash in one area and then invests in content. And then as you grow your content, then you could sell sponsorships and do all the traditional things, think about merch. But I think not enough creators think about how to monetize when they're smaller and then attach so much value to like, oh my God, I only have this many followers. I can't monetize yet, when that's not always the case. I think you can monetize your skills before your audience. And you get a lot of those skills as you build your audience.
Interesting. And so since the majority of people think, and there is actually like reality so far, that majority of the money gets in thanks to brand deals, right? Like if you do a survey, right, as we did in the past, the majority still gets as brand deals. But sometimes if you're like too small, you might not close something that is gonna really move the needle when it comes to your stability. So you said more about the skills. Can we go more in that? Like, what do you mean by that? Is like selling like your time for a service? It is tipping from fans? Like, what could be some of the ways to earn money if you are like a small creator?
Consulting is a big one. I say a lot of these things, I'm speaking more from personal experience because I've had a chance to work at these companies and work with brands and then translate that. But I think the big thing to think about is like, what skills are you learning with every upload? I think that's another goal to think about is like, okay, did I learn something new? Did I learn how to do something with this video that I didn't get a chance to do? I'll give you a perfect example. We just put out this interview with Peter McKinnon, who's this big YouTuber, beloved, has about 5.5 million followers, amazing photographer. And that video now has 200,000 views on our YouTube channel, and it's done better than our past ones. But what was really interesting was the brand integration that we did for that one. And I reshot it. We did a few episodes with this brand, Stir. They're a great financial studio for creators. And the initial video that we did for them, I was speaking to camera and I was just saying the talking points. And then I was like, you know what? I want to learn how to make a more engaging brand deal integration. So if you look at that ad, I cloned myself on screen and I'm talking to another version of myself where I'm like, okay, they're like they're the financial studio for creators. What if I have a conversation with my CFO who is just like I just created this caricature,
Yeah.
and on one side of the screen is like this character and then one side is me, the creator. And I'm like, and I'm having this conversation back and forth. And, but to shoot a video where you had to clone yourself was very hard. And to figure out how to do that, to have timing, to have eye contact where I could like look at a blank space and then have my editor put me in there and then in the other realm be on the other side of the frame and speak to a blank space and then mash those together. But now I feel confident in replicating that or taking that as like part of my toolkit in case I want to use it for one of my videos, use it for somebody else. Like it's just a small, silly example. There's other examples of like how we use sound design or how we use like video introductions, like a lot of things. Like I basically asked myself, one, did this video teach me something that I now know how to do? And then two, like, did I put the most effort into it that I'd be proud of this video in a year? And so I think those are two things. And the first one is something that could help you monetize as you accumulate more skills per video.
Absolutely. How do you feel also in replicating yourself as a content creator so that you don't have necessarily to sell your time, but you might sell, for example, either a membership or an online course, templates, for example? Do you have any experience with that, or have you worked with people that are monetizing on a sort of stable way every single month thanks to, again, selling not their time, not even necessarily their skills, but what they created that can be multiplied easily online?
Yeah, I think it's smart. If you have something like a digital good, you could resell it. I know for me, what I've done to like really scale like myself and my thoughts is I started a Discord community, and I got a domain for it that like is simple to remember because sometimes Discord URLs like I just got created.club because my podcast is called Created with Jon Youshaei. I'm trying to really lean into this idea of like created with like because I think so much of like the best content I made is with somebody else, and so I want to be able to create with other people. So this community, I go in there and we have office hours, we have video roasts, we have thumbnail roasts, and people join the community and I'm in there responding to folks. But then other creators, we have about 1,500 people in it so far. Other creators respond to other creators. And so it's become this almost like this, I mean, I still have to be super active in it. And actually it's one of like the corners of the internet that I really enjoy spending time in the most. But it's kind of become this thing where it could live on even when I'm not on it, if that makes sense.
Hey, quick break. This podcast is hosted by the Influencer Marketing Factory. We are an influencer marketing agency that helps brands and companies engage with Gen Z and millennials on social media. We take care of influencer identification, storytelling, creativity, negotiation, contracting, campaign management, ROI analysis, in-depth reporting, content boosting, and much, much more. Are you interested in learning more? You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or you can Google the Influencer Marketing Factory. Absolutely. Yeah, I love hearing this. Like, you're not the first one that is telling me that other content creators started a community, could be on Slack, Discord. At the beginning, you have to be really active, but after a while, they start realizing that people were not there just because of their favorite influencer or content creator. It's because they wanted to be in the community of other people that like that creator. And you must probably going to have the same hobbies, interests, and so on. So you find other people similar to you, and then you can remove yourself from the equation, right? And still benefit from it somehow.
Yeah, but I don't ever want to remove myself from the equation.
No, of course.
It's not like yeah, a lot of people are like, hey, I want to do this or want to like grow this thing and sell it, and to me, I ask myself, what do I want to do for the next 10 years? And I love doing what I'm doing right now, and getting a chance to prepare for interviews, do the interviews, like put together a talk, speak to camera, just find the most interesting way to distill something without dumbing it down. I love that challenge.
And what about the podcast that you mentioned earlier? It's going to be about content creators mostly? Are going to interview them, or is it a mix between?
It's live right now. So if you look up Created with Jon Youshaei, it's live on every podcast platform. Actually, Spotify just featured it as like a picked for you show, which was crazy to see.
Wow. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So.
They're wonderful over there at Spotify. But if you look up Created with Jon Youshaei, we just launched it 3 weeks ago. And so basically what it is my interviews with top creators, and we have interviews coming out with Logan Paul, Jake Paul, the Peter McKinnon interview that I mentioned is out there. So all those Nas Daily, like all these like top creators that I've had a chance to meet or work with during my time at YouTube and Instagram. And then every week we also have a segment of the show called Office Hours where I'll answer your questions about the algorithm, about YouTube, like I'm about to, after this, like I'm going to record an episode about my thoughts about the new, like Susan Wojcicki leaving YouTube, the new CEO, Neil, coming in after he was like head of product. And then my thoughts on, Instagram's new guide or the new broadcast feature. So all of that, like I'm seeing, and I use my Discord for that. People ask questions like, what do you think about this? What's good retention for a short? Should I be thinking about using Instagram, and how do I use short form and long form? What about YouTube Shorts? All these questions. And I'm like, I lived and breathed that for like over a decade now in so many ways. So it's fun to talk about it without needing to check with a giant PR team.
In some other episode, we talk about the difference between having an audience and a community. And you can see that everyone for many years had an audience. It's still bilateral, but you don't really have that connection. While with a community, first of all, on certain channels, you own the community in terms that you have their contacts and the organic reach is going to be 100%. Like if you want to go on the general channel and reach everyone, you don't need to ask permission, right, to the social media platform. You just blast it there, and everyone can receive that message. So that is good. And I know that we are like a lot of different items here, but I'm really curious. What is the most interesting story that you had, while chatting with these really, big content creators, is there anyone, just a little teaser, so that then people can go to your podcast? Is there anything that you can share? I don't know if you can, but anything that got your attention that
So a story from the podcast, a story from a creator.
yeah, like anything that because then people of course are gonna listen the full episode. But is there anything that you talk with many of these people, right? Is there anything that like really got your attention, shocked you, surprised you?
Oh yeah. We have an episode coming out with a creator named Matthew Beam. And I'm writing a Forbes article about him too. And that's also the other thing that's been wonderful. I've been able to write for Forbes about creators and celebrities and just share their stories. So it's multimedia. Like it's really focusing on writing as well as the interview, which I sometimes the process of writing is so like, starting an article is very hard. But anyways, I'm working on that piece, and the thing that's fascinating about him is he started off, like, I think he was talking about like working a minimum wage job, like making $9 an hour, but he would take out, and I'm not saying this is something to like replicate, I'm just saying it's like an interesting thing, and he made it work, and he's just an incredible story. But he would take $30,000-$40,000 worth of loans before he had 100,000 subscribers to make his videos, and he did all these crazy things that he said something like he got this collaboration with Mr. Beast where he made a custom car. He worked in a car shop, an auto body shop, and he made this car for Mr. Beast, and it took him, I think, $10,000-$20,000 worth of costs. Like imagine that you're not making a ton of money in your day job, but you take a loan to make a YouTube video, and then he drove the car cross country to Mr. Beast, but he had no confirmation from Mr. Beast or his team that they'd like be ready for the car, that they'd even meet with him. He just started driving from Colorado to North Carolina. And so, yeah, that one's coming out. I've been working on that article for a bit, and then another one is Hayden Hillier Smith, who is Logan Paul's editor, and now like doing much more, and he's just an amazing creator in his own right. He talks about, what are the things that make a good edit for a video that you can incorporate, or if you're hiring an editor, you could have them incorporate. And he's just so good with breaking it down in a succinct way. So, I mean, we have like 7, like I'm backed up with like 7 episodes or so that we're lining up to have go out. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming on the podcast.
Amazing. Really curious to learn these stories, because when these them like telling you and everything, you find out things behind the scene, things that you didn't even know that are big, either crazy or spectacular somehow. So
yeah.
Thank you already for sharing that. And something else I want to ask you. We said about brand deals, merchandising, and so on. But in the past year, we've been seeing more influencers and content creators starting either their own business, so open up LLC, or even more, creating their own products, right? We saw it in the past with beauty products. We saw all the YouTube drama that happened in the beauty space, right? And after that, Mr. Beast with chocolate, and with Feastables, right? And then with the burger, and then we got Emma Chamberlain with the coffee. Now we have Prime that become huge, right? So I wanted to ask you, is creating a product for only the big ones that have already a big following and they might sell, let's say, almost everything to their fans? Or have you found any good examples of either like smaller, medium creators that maybe have tried that? And also, what are some of the pros and the challenges of doing something like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I see is people trying to do it too soon. You have to realize like these folks partner with great vendors or, companies that are making products that, or like ghost kitchens that are making the food before they make their physical locations. It's a hard job. And if you're not fully in it, or if you don't have your content operations figured out, like good luck figuring out the business side of starting a brand new product, which is in and of itself very hard. And I think the thing is like the best case scenario is how can you create a product that goes beyond your audience, not just selling to Prime, Feastables, like they're in Walmart, Prime is in Vitamin Shop, like thinking about like Beast Burger started off like with I think it was virtual dining concepts was the company they worked with behind the scenes, and so they had access to all these ghost kitchens. I believe like they because they're been in the restaurant business for so long, they had access to many kitchens, especially during the height of COVID, that they could make the burgers. And for other celebrities, I think Tyga had something like, and Mariah Carey had cookies. Like they launched with a bunch of people. Beast Burger was kind of like the, story that hit the most mainstream because it was one of the first times that a creator did something on that scale. But I would say just be thoughtful about it and ask yourself, if you're going to launch a product, are you going to continue creating content? And if you're not, are you then going to lose the audience, or are you going to lose the part of your business and community that has got you here?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Someone else also told me if you always have to push it only through your social media, as you said correctly, that means that you're buying just from your audience because it's you, not because of the product. And also the challenge is like, how do you go from one product to a brand, right? That is another big challenge, because you can have maybe a good product goes like viral on TikTok for 2 weeks. And someone else also was telling me all the supply chain like challenges, like if you get a lot of like requests and then you cannot fulfill them, then maybe you have to wait for like 4 weeks. And in the meantime, you're going to receive a lot of negative comments. Like it's not easy, right? To manage something like that. So, so I don't know, like if you had the chance to talk with about that with any of the creators that you interviewed.
Yeah, we go into that. Like, I have this segment on my show where I ask them to draw their income. And so I bring a pie chart. I do this on my Instagram and YouTube Shorts and TikTok as well, where I have literally a physical dry erase board with a circle on it. And I give them different markers. And I'm like, hey, tell me how much money you made in the past year and how did you make it? And they literally go through and start drawing and coloring it. And we edit it with like visuals and all that to make it really fun to watch while it's educational. And so, like I'm always fascinated in all the different ways they can make money, but I'm also fascinated like to create different formats. To me, like I actually, going back to your first question, one of the big things I learned is like, how can I experiment with different formats of content?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason we've been able to get those 180 million views in the past year and grow faster than maybe, I would have if I didn't work inside these companies and kind of have these approach and mindsets that we had to launching products. And I'm like now trying to use to launch content.
And on that, I wanted to ask you, so as I guess many other people saw your game, right, on the street, where you go and you ask people like, there is like a celebrity, right? And then there is like an influencer or content creator, right? And if I'm correct, I saw it on your LinkedIn that you said that at the beginning, it took you more time to explain. And so you were like, you know what, I'm going to show it. So in the first second, there is a hook. People can easily understand, right? Because it's there, right? And then tell me more. How does it work? Like for the people listening, you show 2 pictures, one celebrity, one influencer, and what happens then?
The format is based on an insight, which is, are creators more popular than mainstream celebrities? Is social media more powerful than traditional media? And that's the question I wanted to pose to the general public, because we see data all the time. Like, believe me, I lived in San Francisco, worked in Silicon Valley. Like big data, I get it, But what's the emotion behind the story and the stats? I wanted to get at that. And just like, I'm always curious, like I'm that guy that on the street will talk to random people anyways. Like I'll talk to, the cashier, the Uber driver, the waiter. I'll just like ask them like random questions, like whatever's on my mind. Cause everybody has a valuable perspective to share. So I was like, you know what? I want to, my goal is I want to become like, a creator for other creators, like the creators is how I think about my content and my channel. And so in doing that, how can I shine a light on this stat of our creators more popular than celebrities? So I went to FedEx and I printed out faces of people that I think are relatively in the same like ballpark in their like respective industry, like Tom Cruise for the movie industry for Hollywood and Mr. Beast for creators. But the point I was trying to make is that you shouldn't really think about them as creators or celebrities, because one of them is actually more known than the other, and it's not who you think. And on the street, more people actually knew Mr. Beast than Tom Cruise, which was nuts.
But
more people knew Logan Paul than Tom Hanks. Wow. And I would ask different generations.
And that's the thing. So I wanted to ask you: was it like an equal split between generations? And like, have you find any patterns there? Because of course, if you're younger, you're gonna, of course, it's Mr. Beast. I don't know who is this older guy. that might be whatever, you know. So is this something that is like goes across different generations, or have you identified anything there?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to pretend it's not a scientific experiment at all in terms of like having the right sample size, control groups, like making sure it's fully representative. Like I'm literally on the street for a few hours, and just whoever like is open to it and is interesting, and I will try to make it as diverse as possible. But typically, like the younger folks love being on camera, so there's definitely a bias there. You know, they get it. Like on the street is a format that people see on shorts, on TikTok, on Reels, and so they're like, yeah, oh my god, like I would love to be interviewed. And the craziest thing is like now, I remember we were filming in Hollywood Walk of Fame, like a crowd started forming while we were doing it, and people started waiting in line to be in the video because they had seen it before. They're like, that's the guy, and I'm like, what? Like, like what guy? Like I'm looking around, like who are you talking about? And they're like, no, we want to be in your video. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then we'll have them just wait on the side, and I'll go through. And so it's actually made it more efficient.
That's crazy. It's funny that it's in Hollywood, right? Hall of Fame. That you know you think about it for movies, right? And like more of the traditional. And then he said you're doing something for social media, and it's getting potentially more attention, right?
Yeah.
And then like, were you expecting that?
Yeah, that's part of the thinking too. Like it's funny when I did the Tom Cruise versus Mr. Beast comparison video, it was during the height of the Top Gun promotion for Tom Cruise's video. So I was like, all right, let's set up in front of the Tom Cruise poster and ask people. When I compared Nicole Kidman and Emma Chamberlain, I stood on like right around Nicole Kidman's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And then so I would ask them these questions. They're like, I don't know. They would say they don't know who Nicole Kidman is. And I'd be like, do you know we're standing on her star right now? And it's kind of like, yeah, that does, you picked up on a nuance that I kind of wanted to add another Easter egg of it too. But yeah, that's why we filmed there.
What is the funniest moment? Because I'm pretty sure that you saw any type of people, right, joining there. Is there anything that made you either like laugh a lot, or anything that shocked you in maybe an answer from any of the people interviewed there?
Yeah, I mean, there was this guy, like his name is Fancy Ray, and he is a huge deal in Minnesota. He's just hilarious. He like makes all these funny jokes, and I was, you know, most of the time I'm like there laughing. Like I can't control myself. Like these people are saying all these things, I cannot control myself. Which I think, you know, is also funny because I see a lot of these like on the street formats, and people just have the mic in people's face, but they don't have like the person asking the question. And initially I was like, oh, should I do that? And then, you know, I share all my stuff for feedback with other creators, and like, no, dude, you're like, you represent like the audience laugh track. Like you're like, people are experiencing their answer through them, but the reaction through you. So stay on screen and all that stuff. So he was very funny. There's some other guy with a snake, like that would, you know, like just wore a snake like it was a freaking scarf. So it's a fun time.
Absolutely. I think it's going to help for people clicking on the video, right? When they see even just a thumbnail or what is happening in the back. So any other formats that was a success for you, or anything else that you would like to test it out because you saw it already like as a winner for others?
Oh yeah, like we've had, like I'm all about the formats, like I said, but they always, I say this thing, I say, marry your niche, but vary your format. That's one of my big principles. And what I mean by that is like, I am married to the niche of talking about the creator economy, but I will vary the formats by which I talk about it. So creator versus celebrity is just one avenue of it. Another one that we have is like name that song, which is essentially I play a popular song, usually on TikTok or like on shorts or reels, like some song that's trending on short form content. Then I'll ask people, do you know who the artist or creator is behind this song? Like songs that have 4 or 5 billion views, very few people know who's saying them. And my thinking there was like, again, it's another question, is like, what is going viral on TikTok mean?
Yeah.
You know, does anybody know like the songs that, like, you know, you may know the words and all that, but what does that mean for the artist? And so that was another one. Draw Your Income is another one that we just put out. Another great one. We're doing like blind taste tests where we put a blindfold and somebody tries a creator product and a big brand product. So they try Gatorade, they try Prime, and they tell us which one they like better. So yeah, if you look at my channel, it's just like just a ton of different formats, and some bomb and some do really well, and the ones that do really well, we repeat.
Of course. And also, what is your relationship with thumbnails on YouTube? Because I know that that is one of those things that are like really important, right? It's one of those things that there are people that do A/B testing in the first minutes. What is your approach? Do you go more like natural and let's see, or do you spend more time on that?
Can I show you our thumbnail that we're working on for this weekend's video?
Yes, please. I'm really curious.
Okay, so I'm about to put out a video called Ex-YouTube Employee Explains How to Start a YouTube Channel, right? And really like sharing like different things I learned from the inside. And so I wanted to make it so, okay, can you see this?
Yes, I can. Okay.
Do you see what, like I'm like wearing a red hoodie, which I bought off of Amazon, and it's like trying to find stuff that I got at YouTube, but I was like, I can't find something like really nice red. And then I'm like have a manila envelope where I'm like taking out like some secret and whatever. So, yeah, so like stuff like that, I'll think about what's the story I could tell as visually as possible with as many like visual cues. And then like, yeah, so that's like one. Did you, I'm actually curious, did you immediately get what, and for people listening, it's essentially me looking at the camera, wearing a red hoodie, taking a manila envelope outside of my hoodie, like I'm sneaking something, but like, did you immediately get what was going on?
Is it like a reference to another content creator, maybe? Or I see someone with the same hoodie, so I don't know if it's that about or if it is a reference to maybe a movie. So I'm still trying to figure it out.
Oh, it's essentially like I like it's me in the like in the hoodie.
Could be Casa de Papel. Could be also.
What's that?
Casa de Papel in English is what is the name of that TV show with the robberies? They're like all like in red. They do robberies. They've like masks on and everything. I'm missing it. I'm really blinking on the name of the TV show right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will come up with something. But so what is that? What is that about? Tell us.
Anyways, it's just like your question was like, how do I prepare and think about thumbnails? Yeah. I think about it a lot, and I try to think about like what's the story and how can I tell it as visually as possible. It's the same thing as like the creator versus celebrity, where it's like, okay, I'm thinking about how to physically show it. And I think that's a big takeaway because one, I think the first frame of your short form video, which I talk about a lot, is as important as your thumbnail for your long form video. And how can you physically show stuff is so underrated. So could I wear like a different colored hoodie and get them to change the color and then like hold nothing here and then cut in like an envelope? Yeah, I could do that, but over time it starts looking fake. So I rather like do a reel and like I like act it out and photograph it and then make a thumbnail out of that. So that's one way I think about it.
Interesting and fantastic. So we covered the short form and and YouTube for long form and so on. This is mostly like more, let's call it B2C, right? It goes to a lot of people all together. They're not necessarily professionals. But another like social media that this year started to really making content a big focus is LinkedIn, right? So known for their network at the beginning, really B2B oriented, but nowadays you have newsletters, you have native video that you can put on, you can do polls with people. You're really active on it, right? So I always see you there. First of all, how many hours do you spend on LinkedIn? Is it something that you just take like 1 hour of your time here and there and you do a lot of posts and commenting and likes? Or do you mostly have it open there in one tab and then every X amount of like, what is your approach there?
I don't know that I have like a clear, like dedicated, like this is LinkedIn time. Like go in.
I guess so.
Maybe I should, maybe I should not spend as much time on it. But I really enjoy the conversation because it's I think it's a really intelligent community. People are not anonymous. You can see their backgrounds. You can connect with them. So I don't know that I have a clear, like, hey, here's the time I spend on it. But I do know it's a great opportunity for creators. Like I had a chance to be selected for their accelerator, to go through it, to meet people on their team. And so, I just think it's like an intellectual, it's a more like intellectual place where people talk about the business behind the content. not just like the content. And that's like what I live and breathe. So.
And what is working for you? Because there are different formats nowadays. Is there any one that you're using the most that you found successful in terms of reach and engagement?
On LinkedIn or across the board?
Or LinkedIn first, and then we can look at also the others.
LinkedIn, to me, the bread and butter is still a photo and text-based post.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay.
So I've experimented with video. I know they're trying to do more there. I've experimented with carousels. I know they just recently launched the product for that. And so all of that to say is like, I think with a feed-based platform, unless they're really pushing video like Instagram did with Reels, if you think about feed, like a lot of people forget about like, what's the business trying to do? They're trying to get people to keep scrolling to look at ads, right? And so creators are making content that you put in there, and if you get somebody to like stop their scroll too much, like it's of course a sign of like making good content, but also it may like hinder the ability for the platform to make more money by seeing more ads, you know? So like one thing a lot of people don't realize is like a carousel on Instagram, for example, which way does it make you scroll? It makes you scroll horizontally.
Horizontal, yes.
Are you seeing any ads when you scroll horizontally?
Not really.
No. So if you think about it as a business, isn't there less incentive to push a 7-photo carousel unless it's really, really good, you know, versus 1 or 2 photos or 1 photo and get people to scroll, or a video, because, you know, that's such a priority with the tab, with the Reels tab. So LinkedIn to me is an earlier version of that. Photos, text, and I find that, like, you know, don't forget, like, text is still the shortest short form, right? So yeah, that to me is what I've found works the best on my content.
That is a really good point. I now that you make me realize that up until maybe LinkedIn will serve ads between videos so that you can scroll in vertical and seeing them similar to TikTok. I do see your point. Like you don't really want to put attention only on video because yes, you don't see ads. So that it makes sense. And still to say on LinkedIn, I selected 3 of your posts that you posted in the past months. Okay, and I wanted to ask you because 3 of these are like all of them are on different things, but I wanted you to comment on them, right, and expand a bit more. And the first one is the first frame rule. Maybe we said that already before. I don't know if it is the same that we already like discussed it about. Can you expand a bit more on the concept?
Yeah, for sure. First frame rule is essentially making sure that the first frame, what people see at 0 seconds of your video, sets up both the tension and expectation of what the video will be about. So we talked about the creator versus celebrity example. That's the easiest one to talk about, at least for me, because it's physically I put photos of, like I held photos of the celebrity's face and the creator's face, and then I shortened my question to be, who are these 2 people? That was the entire first frame, 0 seconds. You heard it. Even before we get to the second one, you have an idea. A bad version of that was what I did before, which is I did not have it printed out. I just asked people, do you know Logan Paul? Or like we're here on Hollywood Boulevard, like, and I'm asking people if the creators are more popular than celebrities. First up, I'm going to ask people if they know Logan Paul or if they know Tom Hanks.
Yeah, you already lost attention and everything.
Yeah. So first frame is like, how do you set it up? And actually because this is a more visual thing, and I know this podcast is predominantly probably consumed in audio, like I'm putting in my video that I mentioned, the ex-YouTube employee explains how to start a YouTube channel coming out this weekend. I go into different first frames from not just my videos, but other creators. I'm like, that's good. Here's why. That could be better. Here's why.
Super interesting. Yeah, I can see like how you can really A/B test that in a sort of like, like loop where all the time you learn something new from that. And for people that don't know, but like that, I find it fascinating. They're like big YouTubers, that a team that is only like what they do. They do like 40 different thumbnails. They choose the hook. They change the wording of the first few seconds, right? And many people don't know what that happens actually, right? It's a big part of the game.
Big time.
Second one. What do you think of now of YouTube that is sponsoring again Vidcon? So many years, right, was big sponsor. Then last year was TikTok, right? And this year is YouTube again. What does that mean? Like, first of all, as YouTube, like showing that, and also for Vidcon.
It's so funny how events can sway perception. And I think it's something that people underestimated during COVID. They're like, oh, events, you could go virtual, all this stuff. No, physical events still have an important place in our industry and in most industries. And I think it was so interesting to see when TikTok took the sponsorship from YouTube after many years for VidCon, how like the timing of it with TikTok like becoming more of a creator, like essentially becoming like their numbers going up, becoming more like this like thing that people want to talk about. That kind of like put gasoline on the fire. But to be honest, like YouTube is so far and away ahead of TikTok. You look at monetization, like you talk about creators fund, okay, a few billion. YouTube has paid out $50 billion in the past 3 years to creators alone, right? So this sponsorship at VidCon is almost them saying, like the biggest video conference, like that is something we're sponsoring. And then the other thing that people don't realize is not just your logo everywhere, it's you help with the programming. And so I remember when I was at YouTube, we'd work very closely with VidCon in preparing for that event every year. And we help think about, who are some of the creators that get placed? What are some of the things we say on stage for the keynote? Who gets the keynote speech? So a lot of that I think will be working in YouTube's favor. And I think YouTube will have its perception catch up with the reality of how far ahead they are of TikTok for creators.
Super interesting to see. I'm also gonna go this year, and I really want to see like what the last year was interesting, but absolutely I want to see. And I also think that we're gonna expect more people, right? Because now maybe last year was still like a bit, I don't want to say hybrid type of thing, but I'm super curious to see what happens. And the last one that I want to ask you from LinkedIn, and I'm gonna quote you, okay? So then you can then just like explain on that. I say, dear people would say ChatGPT will replace creators. My prediction is that it will solve the Chipotle law of content. What does that mean?
The Chipotle law. Okay, so if you're listening and you've ever like not known where to go eat, I like to say like, okay, it's hard when you have no suggestion to figure out like, okay, where do you want to go eat? But if somebody says let's go to Chipotle, then you're like, no, we're not going to Chipotle. We're not doing that. Come on, John, you're crazy. Like, we're going to go to this restaurant. And suddenly the whole thought is like, because you said something, because you had an initial idea, your mind is able to go into like editor mode and like take that idea and think of a better one. And so to me, ChatGPT is the same right now for creators. Maybe for other professions is better. Like, I don't think that the output I see from it, I don't think it's like, it's more complementary than a substitute. And if you think it, like, I don't know, I was talking to a copywriter and he's like, I'm really worried about like ChatGPT, like, and I'm like, if you're worried about it now, like, you probably should spend more time becoming a better copywriter. Like, because the output is not great. I don't see a lot of creativity, but what it is great for is like, I have this idea, I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to get a prompt. And based on that prompt, I'm going to go into editor mode and then think of better ideas and then go off and write it myself. So the Chipotle law is like, you hear the word Chipotle when you're thinking about going to get something to eat, and that triggers a better thought in your mind rather than looking at a blank canvas, looking at the cursor blinking, and then just forgetting about it.
A really interesting analogy and way to see that. Love it. And so again, I asked you many questions, but usually what I do at the end is always ask you, first of all, if we didn't cover something that you think is super important to know. And the second is, what excites you in the future? Could be about your industry or even not about the industry, like anything that you're either studying or following that might be big, not big, just something that makes you waking up and be like, I want to learn more about that.
I'm really excited about the intersection of AI and creators. Like, I like having a chance to work with TubeBuddy as their head creator advisor. They're working on new tools. I actually talked about this in my keynote at Vid Summit. They're working on this predictive analytics tool that essentially you upload your video and it tells you what your watch time could be before you actually, it's crazy. And they have so many smart people working on this, and they've been, a leader in the creator economy in so many ways for so many years. I think they have about 9 million creators using their products across the board, from Ben to TubeBuddy, which are, the two parts of the business. And the AI tools that are coming, I think, are going to blow creators' minds. And I'm really excited about that intersection. And the other thing that I'm really excited about is that, and that I think about a lot is my podcast. Like I really enjoy what you're doing here and this, because coming from a world of YouTube and video where there's so much production involved in a video, right? And a lot of it's fun, like thinking about like with the idea for the thumbnail, the first frame, the format, all the things that we talked about. But it also takes a lot of time. And I know one of the things that's important for like building a community is consistency and showing up. And so literally today I'm going to go through like my Discord and like look at like the questions in the created community, see the top voted questions, record a podcast, not have to worry about the video, and I'll be up on Sunday. So that to me is a really awesome, faster loop of how things work. So I'm excited about that.
Fantastic. Yeah, we do the same. Like we mostly do video because then we cut clips and we use them mostly for discoverability on social media. So we do really like nice 30 seconds, 60 seconds. So my advice all the time is like the video is really good, not for the long form, because to be honest, who wants to watch someone like now, like we are, just sitting there? Absolutely can do it. If you maybe are not used to use Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can still do that. Or some other podcaster, they also do some graphics here and there just to make it a bit more dynamic. But in our case, for example, of course, the audio part is the most important. The video, it's then making vertical, remove things that are like, some friction here and there, make it engaging, and then using the other channels to bring in to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So, I think that what they're now building makes sense, but absolutely, it takes way less time compared to a YouTube video. That's for sure.
For sure. I think, discoverability with short form and video going to podcast is a great formula.
Especially because the podcast, it's challenging when it comes to how to get discovered and how to grow, right? That is one of the ones.
For sure.
Fantastic. Anything else? Last food for thoughts for our audience? Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think we covered a lot. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all the time you put into this and all the prep, the thoughtful questions. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to catching up in person. I think what you're doing is
thank you so much, John, for joining me today. Everything was really interesting. Again, in-depth analysis of what is happening, case studies and so on. So thank you for sharing that. And this was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.